Welcome back, traders, to today's installment of swing trading NASDAQ 100. Right, we're going to pick up from where we left off on the last analysis that I did on the NAS 100 based on what I thought was going to be taking place in the market. Currently we're actually in the wrong view, so let me just go into day because that is the best view for us, and let's have a look to see what we've got happening right now. So not sure if, well, you can always go back and look at the last video that I did, right? So in the last video that I did, basically I was talking about this low volume node area, which is still here, funny enough, right? I thought it probably would have changed by now, but it's still here, still small, but it's still here. So we had a low volume node in this area, okay? And at the time of the recording, we had price somewhere up here, right? And I was off the mindset that, you know, that there was a possibility that price will come back to retest the low volume node area, which he did, right? And then moved away from it, which is now done so. And it's now moving away from another low volume node area, which is located right here. But overall, price is outside of the high value area, right? So the high value area, this is it right here. This is the most important area within the volume profile, right? And it's in the low value area right now. This is where it is currently conducting business. And if we drop down and we look at this on a lower time frame, so what I said was going to happen happened, right, in terms of price moving away. So it did this thing there, but what we want to do is we want to get a general picture as to what's going on in this area over here, right? So we're going to jump into a lower time frame for that. And what we can see, if we go into the 1 hour, is we have a descending channel forming in this area. So we have consolidation taking place right now, which basically means, right, that one or two things can happen. We can either get another revisit to 23.56.4.3, but me personally, I would just round it off, right, to 23.560. I just think it's just easier to remember, right? And a lot of the time, price always likes to move to rounded numbers anyway, so it's not entirely wrong, right? So which is somewhere 560. Let's have a look. Where's 560? Yes, right here, dead on top of the, just on top of the low volume node. So effectively it's like this, right? The number that I have just quoted would sit just above the volume, the low volume node, which is this little level that I've done here, right? It will sit just above that, which is fantastic. So if it's moving away, it actually is moving away, right? This is the first time that I think I've just come up with a number and I've looked at it on the screen. It is actually in a logical location. Great. Okay, so we have a channel forming up here, right? So this is what we can see right now. This is what we can see. So this situation here usually has a high probability of pushing to the upside, right? So now let's have a look to see if volume profile agrees with the fact that price could move up. And it kind of does. And it kind of does, right? So what's happened is we can see price has come into the low volume node, right? And we can see it's in the process of moving away, but it's returning back to it. So we could come back into this area again and then blast off, right? It could do that. And we're deriving all of this data from the 1 hour. Right, so from the 1 hour chart, that's where we're deriving all of this data from. So now the next thing that we want to do, is we want to take a look and see all the major parts of the NAS 100, what they're doing right now, or what they were doing from yesterday, because that market wouldn't be open right now, okay, just because that's the actual stocks themselves. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, first, let me just set up the screen properly first. Let me just set it up. So we've got NAS 100 here, and we have the DXY, right? So as we can see, it's actually started out great, believe it or not. I wasn't actually expecting it to pair up so nicely. So, okay, so we've got NAS on this side, and then we've got the DXY on this side, which is the dollar index, right? Usually, when the dollar is getting weaker, it's good for the NAS 100, right? Meaning it's cheaper for investors to invest into US assets. That's in general what it means. So if we're looking at this on a day, we can see that overall, so if you look at this whole thing, because sometimes, I think I did a video yesterday where I misquoted what I was actually looking at, right? So overall, wait, let me just do it this way. So overall, this whole area over here, right? This, believe it or not, is an uptrend. Why? Because the low down here, the high up here, and the low down here, right? That low is higher than this low over here. So this is, in actuality, is an uptrend, all right? But however, if we're just only looking at it from this area, then it's a downtrend, right? So that all should make sense. That should make sense, right? So what I'm basically trying to say is this, because I said something, I think, in the video where I think I misquoted the whole thing, and no one has called me out on it. I've kind of seen it myself, so I thought, you know what, let me just self-correct, right? So okay, so the DXY is down, NAS usually would be up, right? That's just the usual, that's just the main correlation between the two. So if DXY is down, NAS is up, and if DXY is up, NAS is down, right? So with that said and done, we're going to look at the main components as to what is actually supporting the NASDAQ doing this thing. And obviously we've got Apple, right? So Apple right now, it closed. So when the market closed on Friday, it closed in an upward trajectory, and it's still pushing up, right? That is great what we can see here. And let me just connect this up like so. That is absolutely lovely what we're seeing here. Let's see if there's anything that market could actually tell us that could be of a really good value. Let's have a quick look. So right now we're looking at Apple. I don't know if I should have said. So we're looking at Apple, and we are looking at what Apple is doing right now. And what we can see is Apple's basically in the uptrend, is pushing up, right? I've just done a trend line in market right now to see where it could possibly land on. What we're now going to do, we're just going to drop the anchored volume profile on here. I think I'm going to take it back about here somewhere. And let's see if it supports everything we got going on. So just like with the NASDAQ, we've got price in the low value area. So price is closed above the high value area, right? And it's now in the low value area, and it's just pushing higher, which is great. And the trend line that I've just put there, price is just close above that. So What I'm looking for right now is to see possible areas of a bounce, right? So I can see in this area right here, we have a low volume node, right? So what I will do is I will put a little marker in this area just to highlight this area for myself, right? To see if price, when the market opens today, because there is a high possibility that when market opens today, right, in a couple hours, price is going to fly possibly all the way down into this zone and might bounce from this zone and then blast off again, right? There is the possibility that price could actually do that. So I'm going to leave that there, but so far everything is supporting NAS being where it is right now, okay? And because of where the NAS is in terms of how it's opened up today and what it's doing today, right, we can kind of expect these moves. So let me just go back into the NAS real quick. Just bear with us a moment. Okay, so let's just see what it does over here when market opens. When market opens, that's when we will actually know what it plans on doing. But so far, based on what it is that I can see right now, I would say this. I would expect price to come into 223. Right? I would expect Apple to come to 223 and then move away. Right? Okay, so now let's take a look at Microsoft. And Microsoft 2 is pushing up. It is pushing up. It is absolutely pushing up, right? That 2 is in a very, very, very strong uptrend, as we can clearly see. It's in a strong uptrend. Yep, that's in a strong uptrend that we can see right here. Okay, we can see that if there is any logical area for a possible retest, we are looking at 469.16. This is what we're looking at. If there's going to be an area for a retest, what I do is I just throw the volume profile on there, right? That's the extra sauce that we put on that. Once again, in the low value area, so it's definitely cleared this zone. It's pushing up. We have a serious low value node area in this location right here. Okay, so that is between the 402 and say 376. We have a large low value node area. Low volume node area, sorry. And right now we've got price that's just basically just flown all the way off. Now there is areas that it could possibly do a retest and come to. Some of these areas are, in my opinion, some of these areas are, I would say, between 489 and 480. Right, we can see we have consolidation in this area right here, a bit like what's going on over here. Okay, a bit like what's going on over here. We're looking at this in the hour. As a matter of fact, let me jump back to the day. Let me jump back to the day on that. Okay, so it looks like, from what I can see in this area over here, is that we have a small low volume node area right here, okay? So this is between 520 and 513, and price is currently heading into it. As a matter of fact, I think it would be a lot better if I just highlighted it. And price is now heading into it, right? So going off everything I'm seeing right now, I would say that price would be moving away from this too. So at some point, Microsoft will be turning around and will be going bullish, right? These are just everything that, based on what I'm seeing, when I'm cross-referencing everything together, this is the story that is telling me right now. This is the story that it is giving me. It's giving me the story, right? So let me find, obviously we've got the main one up there, but oh, okay. So we've got Amazon. So we're taking a quick look into Amazon right now, see what's going on with Amazon. And as we can see, let me just throw the volume profile on there. Basically, I just throw volume profile on everything. I just throw volume profile on everything. Right, so let's just do from the lowest point. Okay. And once again, exhibiting the same sort of behavior that we can see in the NAS, right? Exhibiting the same sort of behavior that we can see in the NAS. And the behavior that we can see in the NAS is that it is in the low volume or the low value area, okay? It's all in an uptrend, so price is pushing up, definitely, okay? It did do a gap in this area, so it did gap between 229 and 220, right? It did gap, but that gap is more or less being filled now. There isn't really any noticeable low value node area. I mean, we do have one over here that price tapped into and it's now moving away from. But overall, the general gist that I'm getting, especially when it comes to Amazon, is that this high point of 242 is probably going to get knocked out very, very soon. So this is all supporting the story of a bullish trend in the market. Now, bearing in mind, these stocks I'm talking about, market ain't open yet. Market has not opened right now, so we don't know what it's going to do. But we're just getting a pretty much early bird picture into what could possibly happen in the coming days, right? This is all that we're looking for, right? Okay, so now we're going to go into Alphabet, and I'm just going to grab Google, Google L. Yep, we're just going to go with the NASDAQ one. Yes, the A-class one. That's the one I wanted as well. That's the one I wanted. Okay, so same thing. So this particular, so Alphabet, Google Class A stock is pretty much identical, right, to what we've just seen with Amazon. It's pretty much the same sort of data. So what I want to do once again is we're going to drop the volume profile on here. Because like I say, if you're not using the volume profile, you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? You want to have this on your chart. You want to be using this particular tool. You want to be using it. So what we can see here is the same thing across the board, right? So this is more or less in line with what I think is going to be happening, right? So with Google, I want to see 207 taken out, right? At the moment, it's telling the story of all the other stocks that we're looking at as well, okay? Which is they're all in the low value area, okay? Now, when I say low value area, I don't mean it's a bad area for it to be in. It's away from where the main business of market was being done. So main business of market is always being done in a high value area, and then when it runs off either that way or this way, it means they're in low value areas, okay? Where if there is any form of turnaround, we're looking for it to take place in those locations to come back into this zone. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, okay? But these are the things. This is why it helps us monitor the situation. So what we can see is we've got the same type of vibe as what we got going on in the NAS 100 over here, which is where price is, what price is currently doing, and everything supports what it is that we're seeing. So what it basically means for us is there is no reason for a panic. We just need to observe what market is currently doing, and so far it's all moving in the direction that we all want, right? Which is it's moving upwards. Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we're going to see if this trend line is going to get broken, right? If it does, then at least we know what to do, especially if you get a close into the value area high under it and it closes below the low volume node in this area right here, which is at 186. Okay, at which point, if you're thinking of taking positions in Google A class, you can say you're pretty much getting it at a discount, and the lower it comes down, the cheaper it will mean for you. So with that said, we're going to move on to the next one real quick. And we're going to be looking at Tesla. Okay, let's take a look at Tesla, see what's going on here. So Tesla is the only one right now that looks fairly different to everything that we have seen so far. It's the only one that looks different to what we've seen so far in terms of what market is doing. So once again, we're going to throw the profile on here. Okay, it is outside of the high value area, right? So it's doing the same thing as the rest, okay, which is cool. It just left point of control down here. Right now we do have a channel forming or a squeeze. Okay, so what we need to do is work out what direction that is going to spill off in. So let me just highlight that for you guys if it's not quite clear to see. And as we can see, we have another one down here. So as we can see here, Tesla's gone into a squeeze at the moment, okay, right? There are areas that we need to keep an eye on because that could influence direction or spillage, right? And this is, it's not very well pronounced, but we do have low volume nodes in this area right here. So I'm just going to highlight it. This is subject to change, okay, because it's not a strong one. It's actually quite weak, but it is enough to influence direction. So if we get a close above 349, it's fair to assume spillage of market is moving in this direction, or should we say an explosion, an eruption, whatever is moving off in this direction. So like I said, this all ties in with everything that is going on here, okay? We can see the positioning of markets, we can see what it's doing, we can see how it's kind of preparing itself, okay? And this is all telling the story that I should expect NAS to continue to push up today, right? And if I am looking for positions in the assets I've talked about, which is Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, now Tesla, okay, I should be looking for long positions. Based on everything what I said, based on everything that I've seen so far, this is the story that market is telling me right now, okay? If you're saying something different, do let me know in the comment section. I'm open to all ideas. I am open, right? So let's take a look at the next one. Let's take a look at the next one. So the next asset that we're going to look at right now is going to be Meta, Facebook, right? And that too is in an upward momentum That too is pushing up. The only difference with Meta and everything else that I've seen is the consolidation up here is slightly different to what we've seen in all the other assets, right? So we have an ascending channel in here, and most of the assets that we've looked at, when they are consolidating, they're consolidating in a descending channel. So this channel up here basically says it's going to be breaking downwards, right? Now, if I said breaking down, you're thinking going to a downtrend. Not necessarily going to a downtrend. It needs to fill this gap in this area. This gap in this area, market needs to fill it. So that's what market's going to do. Market's going to fill it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little level there, right? We're just going to draw a little level. And let's just see, because once I fill the volume profile on it, let's just see if it lines up, right? We're just going to have a look to see if it lines up or not. So let's just go and drop the volume profile on that right now. And hopefully with this analysis that you're getting from me today, hopefully this should help you with your decision making. So first things first, just like with all the assets that we've looked at, okay, prices in the low volume or low value area, right? We have a low volume node in this location right here, okay, and as we can see, that's where our gap is, right? So now let's just adjust this low value node area, low volume node, for it to fit in perfectly, so we know where we can expect the takeoff from, or the breakdown to take off from. So pricing below 726 basically means that price is flying all the way down. It could come down to this area over here, okay, to form a head and shoulders before it breaks down further, and that's going to be in line with this low volume node in this area right here. That will be in line with that, okay? Now, if it doesn't do that and it decides to blast off, it will retest this location. It will retest this location and then move away from it, and that will be 765.38, right? So these are the things that I'm expecting, the main components, right? So the main, the carrying body of the NASDAQ 100. These are the stocks that we've just run through right now, which was Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Tesla, and Meta, right? So these are the stocks that are doing the heavy lifting on the NASDAQ 100, okay? And these are the ones that are primarily responsible for what we're seeing in this location over here. So hence why I've brought it to your attention. So now all you basically need to do is just compare what I've said with what takes place, and then we can always revisit this in 6 days time, which should be Monday coming. Okay, so with all this said and done, if you found the content useful, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you turn on the notification, and you drop us a like, and I will see you all on the next one.